Alright, I'm going to jump right into this Kern EN review because I don't have a whole lot of footage here. So this is a 155 by 160 millimeter 29er. It is raced on the EWS circuit, so let's call it an enduro bike. The size medium Kern EN that I'm on has 439 millimeter chainstays and a 456 millimeter reach with a 65.5 degree head tube angle and 77 degree seat tube angle. While that seat tube is a little steeper than some, most of these measurements are really not out of the ordinary and are actually just pretty average for a bike like this. This particular build, called the Finest, retails for $49.99 with Formula shock fork and 4-piston brakes, a SRAM mostly X01 drivetrain, and a really nice set of Maxxis DHF DHR2 tires with proper double down casings. This build is by far the most race-ready set of components I've seen on an enduro bike, with no real need to upgrade any of the components before showing up to a race. Every bit of the kit felt appropriate for what this bike's made for, which is going max speed downhill and making it back to the top comfortably. There is a little bit of noticeable pedal bob on the climbs with this bike. I did need to use the climb switch on the shock, but with that climb switch flipped shut, it climbs really nicely. The seat tube angle is steep enough. Coming from the last bike I was on with an 80 degree seat tube angle, I did end up shoving the saddle all the way forward, but there's plenty of room to do that. When it's time to sprint, either out of corners or across a flat piece of trail, this bike feels really nice and stiff. It's got a huge down tube that's just as wide as the bottom bracket, and it really feels like you're getting what you put into it. The Kern has a surprisingly snappy character out of turns that kind of plays into an overall playful manner that I wouldn't expect from a 29er with a coil shock that is as low and long and slack as this one is. This bike is genuinely fun to pop around. It's fun to jump on, manual as much as I can do that. It's more than a plow for sure, and it sits, I would say, somewhere in the middle of that plow to play scale that most big bikes are kind of finding their place on. So for riders who want to race or want to ride all day long and have a great gravity bike that will do basically everything, this thing is fantastic. It's super fun, and especially for people who really like to play around. Now, onto the catch. The Kern carbon frames have some pinch points where essentially the linkage opens up, and if you stuck your finger or a piece of paper in them, they will kind of bite it, and if any dirt gets in there or mud, it's going to get trapped, and it seems like the frame is going to essentially sand itself. So the one major downside of this otherwise super cool, capable, very fun bike is that it's arguably a dry weather bike. Fortunately, there is an aluminum model available for €24.99 for a really nice build kit as well that doesn't have any of those overlaps in the linkage. And despite any concerns of how the linkage will perform in the mud, the Sun Enduro team has raced this bike in countless wet races, and they don't seem to have any problem with it. So maybe it's just something to watch over if you own the bike, and make sure that that linkage gets cleaned out as quickly as possible. That's going to do it, short and sweet, for the Sun Kern. For more info on this bike and loads of other news and reviews, head over to singletracks.com.